Welcome, everyone, to the Enlightenment Evolution Hour with your host, Rob Gauthier. Thank you all for your cooperation with the malfunction of Blog Talk today again. But we have a very, very wonderful and special guest, a dear friend of mine, a very wonderful and beautiful channeler by the name of Brad Johnson. He's our guest here today. Welcome, Brad, and thank you for coming on the show tonight.
Thank you for having me once again.
Well, it's always a pleasure. For people who might not be aware of you, and most of the people who are into our show now, they're aware of the channeling circles, they're aware. But if someone were to happen to come across, can you give a little explanation about who you are? And after that, maybe give your introduction to what channeling is about and how you integrate into channeling.
Yeah, for sure. So everybody usually has a pretty good scope about what I do. That can be seen on my website. You can just go to realitywhisperer.com. My about section is there. In a nutshell, it's basically that I've started channeling back in 2008, close to around the fall time, and just started communicating with many other different consciousnesses at that time. I really got into meditation and to channeling. It was all because of a science fiction novel that actually woke me up to get into channeling, and just being able to do a lot of research online relating to psychics, channels, black ops community members, contactees, etc. They all discovered their own particular forms of understandings about how extraterrestrials and other particular forms of beings communicate with us, which again is very common through meditation practice. And again, this really fascinated me. I wanted to get into meditation myself, just because I was curious about that, being able to connect with other worlds, being able to connect with other beings. And so that really began my journey. So just starting to go into meditation for the very first time back in 2008, and I really went very, very deep, being able to connect with a lot of higher dimensional consciousness and other particular forms of beings as well. I would just go to sleep at night and I would get downloads in the middle of the night and wake up the next morning knowing things I didn't know before. And since that time, this has been happening quite often. It's basically just at the point now where it's at such a natural pace, where I can just kind of tap into a topic, tap into a subject, and information will just start coming through. So it's been a really incredible journey this past 7 years. In regards to the channeling state, it really just represents connecting with the extensions of your being, connecting with all the layers that represent your own universal self. So being able to, if you're feeling you're connecting with angels, or if you're connecting with spirit beings, or you're connecting with extraterrestrials, they're all just facets of you. Everything is just existing right now. If you're looking at yourself like an onion, we have many different layers, but really there is just one onion. And so that's really representing the idea of channeling, is that we're being able to connect with these particular layers to helping us understand more about what we are as a whole. So that, to me, that's really the idea of channeling. Everybody can do it just in their own unique way. It's not to say that you're going to instantly become, a channel like the way I do it or the way Rob does it, or many others may do it, relating to vocal channeling. There's many different ways about how it can be expressed. There's many different ways about how it can come about, and many different ways about how you can utilize it in your own way that serves. So everybody can do it. Again, everybody who has a personality really is channeling in their own way, because again, for us to even have a personality is just an advanced configuration of a channeling state as well too. So we're all doing it just very, very naturally.
And the beautiful thing that I've found for a lot of new people who are coming into channeling, it's becoming more, not necessarily mainstream, but it's becoming where it's in the awareness of people's states. And through that awareness, they've been able to find a lot of different ways to channel, a lot of different ways to connect. You said that there are tons of ways to do it. Some people do it in writing, some people in music, some people in art form. So I've also found something very interesting in seeing the multi-dimensional facets of channeling, that some people are coming into channeling now without deep meditation or without using those types of tools to come into it. And this is something that's very curious to me, because every channeler I know who does professional verbal channeling dealt with meditation of one sort or another, or dealt with digging into their consciousness. What do you think the difference is now compared to what it was 10 years ago, or maybe even 30?
Yeah, and I think basically with a lot of people that are still going into the channeling states that they do are doing it for two reasons. One, to really just center themselves and neutralize themselves because it's part of their practice. And two, that's just a lot of their conventional approach about how they've trained themselves to go into those states. With me, with Adronis, it's always constantly evolving. When I first started, it took me about 2 minutes or so at least, just to get into the state to connect with Adronis and then have him come through altogether. But now, basically within seconds, he can come through as well. It's basically that your own conscious self is a meditation state. This is often referred to as conversation as meditation. So if I just naturally start to speak right now, I'm not thinking about what's coming through my mouth. I'm simply allowing the words through flow to guide myself based upon the conversation that we wish to have here and now in this very moment. So being able to utilize that particular example, you're in a state of complete stillness and center. There's no thoughts in your mind. Your feelings are basically just in a state of calmness, of centeredness, and you're just letting the words become themselves. So in that particular morsel of sample right there, that's giving an example of conscious channeling or flow channeling in that particular way. So there can be flowers in that particular way relating to how they channel other particular beings, their own higher self, their own soul. Whatever you want to give it really is fine. But really what matters is that there's the understanding of less focus on the messenger and more focus on the message. That's the most key point. That's one of the most common questions I get. Well, Brad, who am I channeling right now? Am I channeling Ashtar from Ashtar Command, or am I channeling Archangel Michael, etc.? I said, does it matter? It really doesn't matter who you're channeling, because that's just a program that we go through of discovering who is it that I'm communicating with, what's their name, what do they look like, etc., etc. To me, that's not important. What's really, really important is being able to look back at the message and see what the message has to tell you. Has the message served? And if the message serves you, if it feels good, I feel like I've really uplifted myself just by having this message, then congratulations. You've focused on the message of the channeling state. That's the most crucial thing, I feel. So less on the idea of identity, because this is what gets us into kind of the propaganda feeling that, oh my goodness, what if I'm talking to a negative extraterrestrial or negative being, etc. And again, we go back into the identity crisis. So the more that you can leave identity aside and just come more so into the flow of message, then that's the important part. Like when I'm channeling Adronis, I don't need anybody to believe that he's an extraterrestrial consciousness or something outside of myself. When I say Adronis, that's the vibratory frequency name that I'm utilizing to help me connect to that source, to allow that source to come through. But it's never that I want to throw this at anybody and saying, when it's Adronis from Sirius, you have to see that he's Sirian, you have to see that he's an extraterrestrial, you have to see that he's a multidimensional mentor. You don't have to see that at all. All that matters, all that stands out, and really that's what I get people to see when I do channeling, is that the message itself serves. And as long as it does that, then I've done what I've come for.
And that's a beautiful thing. It's something I used to learn to meditate in a spiritualism church, and that's one of the people who mentored me said the same thing. For now, just let that energy flow. You can always deal with the who's or what's later, but that's really not important to the energy or message that comes in. So you built this connection to Adronis. The energy is there. You, out of all the channelers I know, you are one of the very few that comes through with very intricate and scientific style of information. It's very complex. There's multiple layers to it, not just the conscious thought process that you have to put into it to understand the higher parts of the scientific or the spiritual essence, but there's also encoding that goes in there. So how do you explain that to a person who doesn't understand the encoded messages, or who is having trouble keeping up with some of the higher, intense, scientific, and spiritual type of information that comes through?
Yeah, I mean, that can always be a challenge for some people. And I think some people would actually, when they hear it, they kind of just, they're perplexed by it, but they love it because they say it's something that doesn't sound so obvious. It's something that they can go back to, and they're excited to research. And I think that's kind of the mystery fascination that many of us have. We like to go into the depths of the research of the information that Adronis comes through. Yeah, he is a very technical energy. He also has, again, a very strong feeling side, but the feeling side very much is masculine. When I look at the other counterpart to Adronis, which is his feminine counterpart, which would represent Rayar, she's very much different. She's very much very feeling, very nurturing, very soft. You know, you can feel that there's a lot of loving energy coming through. Again, Adronis has that, but Rayar has it much more in a motherly, nurturing way. So some people prefer to talk to Rayar in that particular way when she comes through. But when Adronis comes through, yes, it can be very technical. It's very grounded. Even if a person doesn't understand what Adronis is saying in certain ways, because he'll get very technical, there's a download that happens. And so basically, it's almost like they are hearing the conversation happening, and then something happens later on, either in the day or the next day or the next couple of days pass, and something happens that basically is of some type of essence from what Adronis was sharing. Now, people can actually, in that sense, ask for clarity. If they feel that Adronis's information on a technical level is very, very complex, they can just ask him, can you shrink it down a little bit? Can you make it kind of like an elevator version or layman's terms that I can understand? And he'll do that. It's basically kind of like looking at a stairwell. He'll go down a stair, he'll go down a stair, he'll go down a stair until you feel you have the message. So he'll be able to do that, and he does it very seamlessly. So it's very, very cool just kind of witnessing that. And that's all I'm really doing is when I'm going into the channeling state, just my own self is behind, and I'm just witnessing everything as this information comes through. And sometimes I'm even confused, about what Adronis talked about, because it can be so technical. It's, yes, when we talk about Sirius, we're talking about light condensement information, blah, 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 and he'll just go into this stuff very, very technically. And the reason why that is because at the point that the download from what I'm receiving is so fresh, it starts off truncated as that particular type of technical communication. Once that information has been received, now that band of information can now be branched down. As it gets branched down, now it can become a little bit more simplistic for people to understand. So this is why, again, it's kind of like the freshness of the moment. It's kind of like you're picking a carrot right out of the garden, and now you can actually take it into your kitchen. You can wash it down. You can cut it into small pieces so it's digestible, so you can eat it rather than thinking you can shove the whole carrot in your mouth. So again, that's kind of an analogy that I would give. But for people who are confused, they can always ask for clarity. But even if you don't understand the essence about what's discussed in the conversation, can in that sense actually have an effect about where you're going in life, either almost immediately or within the next couple of days.
Well, absolutely, and that's something that I love about Adronis, the complexity of the information. And I think that most people who understand channeling, who've been around channelers, who've been around channeled information, they know that when Adronis speaks deeply, or when Bashar speaks deeply, Ardif, all of these more technical entities that come through, to relax in the moment and just accept, and the feeling of the energy is just as important and just as potent as the information itself, and the information kind of falls in line later. And I've noticed a lot of people who have been around channeling for a long time are starting to come to the more technical aspects of channeling, because they went through all of the simple law of attraction books and all of the simple channelings that are out there for people who are beginning. So this complex level of information is very potent and very noticeable to the community. So I am so amazed by that information that comes through you, and Adronis. I love listening to it, and I love feeling that energy and going through. Now, you mentioned Rayar too, and Rayar is the feminine counterpart, as you said, for Adronis, the sensing, nurturing, loving energy that comes through. So are both of these energies coming from the same collective consciousness? Are they kind of the same thing, or do you really
Yeah.
talk about that?
Yeah, of course. They represent what's known as the Ra energy. Now, when I'm talking about Ra, I'm not referring to the Egyptian god as Ra, although there is an association with that energy that they do have. So Adronis and Rayar, if you were to look at them as energy, are basically starlight. So they exist within the star of Sirius as starlight. Now, basically in this particular form, they are able to project holograms of appearances. They can become, again, very telepathically connected to you, and they can give you an interpretation about what they appear as. Now, I don't always get the idea of like visual form from them. It's more so that I feel their energy and I tap into that feeling. It's kind of like when a person knocks on your door and they're ready to begin, and you just know it's ready to begin at that time. But Rayar, when I was able to first see her, was actually during a oneness blessing gathering I did, I think it was about a year or two ago. And I was doing a particular technique called the Ananda Mandala, which is basically rapid fire breathing. And you're just, really pumping yourself with all of this energy. And then there's a point where you just kind of relax and sit into the energy. As I did that, I was able to tap into the Adronis matrix, as I could call it, and there was a woman there. And so I was basically talking to this woman and saying, "Oh, who is this? Who am I speaking to right now?" And she was attempting to send me a telepathic transmission of an acceptable term that I could refer to her as. And I was kind of going like Rayar, is that it, right? Yes, Rayar, right? So it's R-A-Y-A-R. So kind of like the ray of Ra, if you were to spell it kind of part of it backwards. So basically, that's giving her that kind of energy as the ray of Ra. So that's basically what they represent, is this type of starlight consciousness. But again, she is, just referring to energy on a feminine level, if you understand the Adronis matrix, which again is that starlight consciousness. So she'll come through, she's very loving, very nurturing, very soft, and you can even tell when I start to channel her that, again, my voice turns a lot more feminine, which is kind of funny. Big masculine guy saying a feminine voice. It's quite funny. But it
I've
has,
enjoyed it.
it's been great. And she refers to herself as well as a singer of Sirius light. And basically that just means that she is able to work a lot with light language and with chanting. And I've done a few videos with her as well too, and just being able to review those videos, there's been some really great effects, not only happening with me as I reflect on it, but also with a lot of other people that have contacted me and said, "Yeah, I listened to that Rayar video and it was so powerful. I'm just like on cloud 9 today after it." And I said, "Oh, it's great." And then that's exactly what we came to do, was just for you to concentrate on the message. So again, Rayar really represents the feminine counterpart of Adronis, Adronis representing the masculine counterpart of Rayar, and again, together they form the energy of Ra.
Well, they are definitely a beautiful duo together. It really balances out all the energies of consciousness that we understand here on Earth and beyond, that really help us integrate a lot of things. So you brought that around with Rayar. You've rounded that energy out to both sides of the yin and yang, and you've made a lot of changes in your channeling. You've made a lot of changes in your connection and life from the beginning, as all channelers do. And one of your newest corners after opening up the Psychic Academy that you have was the Reality Whisper. And for those who might not have heard you talk about what that means, can you fill us in a little?
Yeah, actually, it was a lot of it is thanks to you, Rob, because you refer to yourself as the ET Whisperer, right? So I've always heard about the idea of the Whisperer term, for years. Looking at the Horse Whisperer and of course like the Ghost Whisperer, etc. All of those particular type of Whisperer terms. And I was actually just listening to a seminar a few months ago, and basically saying, what really is good to help you, get yourself out there is really just kind of creating a neat little nickname for you that people can kind of just latch on to. And you can kind of roll with it and get some really good kind of exposure with this kind of fancy name. So being able to look back at what I've been doing these past several years, I said, well, I'm basically just have been a conscious matrix, but also been the idea of really working together with reality, because I don't just refer to myself as a channeler. Channeling is just one small piece of the pie that I integrate myself into. I also do Akashic record readings, I do psychic perception, I do remote viewing, I do healing, everything like that. So there's all these different types of pieces of the pie. So I thought, really the best way to really kind of sum myself up with that idea of a whisperer is look at Reality Whisperer. And so that's giving the idea that I'm communicating with reality. So I communicate with synchronicity. I help to look at reality mechanics and get an understanding of how reality communicates with us, what really is going on, how does our life work. So I basically try to consider myself a liaison for the actual manual as it relates to reality. So being able to talk to people and they tell me their dreams, and then I'm able to instantly interpret their dreams and give it back to them and share this information. So this is exactly what you've been doing. I don't even know how I do it because I've actually haven't really picked up a dream interpretation diary or journal or book or anything like that. It's all just coming through flow. As soon as they're telling me these certain forms of increments that happen within their dreams, then bam, I just start assimilating all this information through being a reality whisperer, and then being able to bring it back to them and saying, well, this is exactly what your dream is trying to tell you, A, B, C, and D. So it can also relate to healing. It can relate to, again, self-empowerment. Basically, you name it. There's just been so many different people from all walks of life who have just told me incredible things about themselves, and I'm just able to tap into that energy and being able to sense what kind of energies they're going through. Again, if it's dreams, if it's something happening in their personal life, if it's career, what can I do to attract more money? What can I do to enjoy my holidays, etc. Whatever it is, and just being able to tap into that intuitively and bring that back to them. So again, that's really just what I enjoy doing, is just being a mirror for everybody else, because there's nothing too special about me any more or less than anybody else here. It's just being able to know that if you have a passion, if you enjoy this so much, this is what you're all about. And now your reality is virginizing itself based upon the passion that you're giving out. So everybody here has the opportunity to become an incredible channel, an incredible medium, an incredible psychic, a dream interpreter, an Akashic Records reader, you name it. You're all capable of that. It's just being able to know that this is how you want to live it. It's not just saying, I want this. Because as long as we say, I want this, that's kind of like a mirage in the desert effect. That's looking at a rock in the desert and saying, oh, okay, and I want that. That's a car now. I'm going to go and run over to that car, and now you see that it's a rock. As long as we continue to want something, we're still not claiming it for ourselves. So it's basically where you're saying, I am that car. I am in the reality where I have a car that serves me. And so that is a claimancy. That is a form of being able to command your reality to make that so. So again, that's just basically what I'm doing with many of my different forms of abilities, which again are just very, very natural, to be able to bring this out to the public. And I just, I'm living my dream life. What can I say? This is exactly what I love to do, and just talking to thousands of people all over the world. And I think one of my favorite things that people say, Brad, when I tell you this, you're going to think I'm crazy. I say, try me, because I have heard so much stuff from everybody, about how they've been abducted by ETs out of bed, how they've gone to other planets, what life is like on board spacecraft, a lot of other different forms of federations and organizations that exist, underground installations, again, having ET contact personally, sightings, connections with spirit. It's just thousands and thousands of people, and it's just, people ask, I must be the only one here that's going through such a unique experience with all these spiritual encounters. No, you're not. I've talked to thousands of people over the world. Everybody I've talked to has some really amazing, incredible, spiritual, extraterrestrial, out of this world kind of encounter that's happening. So I've heard a lot of great stuff, and it's what I love to do. I wake up in the morning and I get to talk to people who says they've had ET encounters and stuff like that. That's my daily life. To me, it's beyond a dream, really. It's fantastic.
The one thing I've noticed in my own experience is the more that I lived as a channeler instead of just doing channeling part-time, when I had a day job, is that I was super, super excited to get my little bit of time in the channeling world and talk to people and do that. But when I integrated it and said, you know what, I'm done, I'm going to do this full time, there are so many more people who can use this information and need it, and more people contacted me. Once I started that journey, my whole life jumped up another notch. And then every step from there was only a step upward. Even if I was having a real crappy time with day-to-day stuff, the way that it came out was always different. And that's kind of why I like that reality whisper idea. It's creating your own reality in so many different terms and so many different levels. And the conscious matrix is kind of my understanding of your large step in. Before, you were always consciously connecting to Adronis and consciously connecting to these different energies and entities, but after you broke into that concept and experience, you were able to directly come through and bring that message in, plus reach into the deep parts that you really didn't have as much access to before. What changed in that part of your life? What was that tripping point that brought through that conscious matrix understanding to you to a higher level?
Yeah, it's basically because I wanted to evolve past channeling. And I felt that at the time I had channeled enough information as best I can, and I was ready to move it into a next step. And that is basically like I was talking about, which is flowing channeling in that particular way. One way is just referring it to that. Another way can just be flowing conversation in that way, or flowing information. And I was actually starting to get very deep into that. But a lot of people were contacting me and said, I wish you would contact Adronis again. I liked speaking to him. I really enjoyed communicating with Adronis. And so there was that kind of feeling as well, too, because I also missed the channelings, because I would just sit back and let my voice carry on Adronis's information. And so I missed that as well, too. So I did the idea of conscious matrix communication for a few months and then brought Adronis back, because I really did miss that kind of energy, where just all of this profound information of something that wasn't of my own perspective, in a way, when I'm looking at a human being as Brad here, that something, again, is more cosmic, something that was more celestial, that would actually come through and share that information. It's kind of like you have a visitor that's in your house, and they felt like family, and you kind of miss that presence. And so in my way, that was kind of how it was. And so, okay, I'm going to let Adronis go for now, and just being able to go right into conscious matrix communication. And that did somewhat okay. But again, I just missed the idea of energy of Adronis coming through. And when I channel Adronis, it's not the idea of a piggyback anymore. That's kind of how it started when I was first channeling him, is that if I was here, I was interlocking to the platform above me, which represented Adronis, and of course he had his source. It's no longer like that anymore. It's more so in the idea that we share the same platform, and we're both just accessing the information in that particular way. So again, just being able to do conscious matrix communication has helped for a time, but then being able to move back into channeling, just as a complement to perspective, that's really how it has ended up.
Well, that's the part that I enjoy, is you went through that energy, you learned how you could jump up there and expand through that, and bringing back through your channeling, it's the channeling plus that, and that's what's so beautiful, is the expansiveness of your conscious mind being able to connect, and I understand that idea. More so, the more that you connect to these energies, when you're truly connecting to them and feeling those, it gives you that opportunity to expand both in your conscious mind and in your higher meditative states and then astral states and things like that. Now, I know that all these people are here too to talk to Adronis, and we're going to get to you guys here in just a few minutes. But before we get into that, there is an event that's coming up where you're involved with, and we're going to be in LA together, along with 6 other wonderful, world-renowned channelers. Now, the concept, the idea of bringing 8 individuals who have these brilliant entities that are connecting to them, plus the possibility of thousands of people from across the world on live stream, and the hundreds of seats that are there, these people are going to co-create this event with. So what kind of energy do you perceive that to be when we're co-creating on that high a level with high intense information? It's something that I've never experienced before, but I want to kind of get your idea of how that will kind of read out into a collective consciousness idea.
Well, the people that co-create this with us are giving us the permission to let them know that they're ready for the information that comes together. So that's basically creating a node. And so creating this particular node that comes together, wherever it may be in the world, whether it's, again, this upcoming event or events coming in the future, we're always creating nodes. When you have people of like mind that want to come together and share this information on a celestial level, on different density and dimensional levels as well, too, that says something very promising about a lot of the forerunners that are here on the planet. It's very funny, because I am working on a TV series right now called The Inbound, and it really is all about star seeds, being able to waken up the star seeds on planet Earth and helping them to reach more into unity consciousness. And so I could refer to a lot of the people that are the forerunners as the inbound in that particular way, people that have come here from different planets that have come here from different realms and different dimensions and densities to once again incarnate here and be a part of this grand experiment, and realizing that we are the forerunners, we are the inbound to actually come through and helping humanity to realize what we're all capable of. Because when we have these particular types of gatherings, the love that is present when I've had previous gatherings of channelers and all kinds of other great experts in their fields, the energy is sensational. It's an absolutely incredible experience. So when we have all of these particular types of experts to come together and perform their craft and being able to share their information with everybody else that becomes a part of it, we're a very big power cell. We're a big node, and that's having an effect on a collective consciousness on a very large scale. You can have only a few people, a handful of people on the planet that are gathered around and having this incredible experience that can actually reshape the entire unified field as we know Earth to be. That's how powerful this is. You don't need a lot of people. It's only a select few that can actually have the capability when they're surrounded by this love, they're surrounded by this information, they're shared together in this unification. And that is what's creating a whole new planet. So continuing to have these more and more by the few are going to have grand effects for the all.
That's a beautiful, beautiful way to put it. Now, before we get to the channeling, I wanted to give you the opportunity for people who listen to this channeling, who are moved by it, or for people who are already aware and just haven't taken the step to contact you for a service. Can you kind of let people know? I know you talked a little bit about what your services are, but just maybe a quick introduction to your website, to where they can watch videos and introductions, things like that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, everybody who's not familiar with Adronis, then you can go ahead and go to my website. It's realitywhisperer.com. I have a very popular YouTube channel that has over 7,000 subscribers right now. Hundreds of videos on it, so you have no shortage of information that comes through. I'm quite a video creator, so I like to create a lot of different videos. Whenever there's an idea in my head or something that I'm being guided to talk about, I'll turn the camera on and start bringing about some really great information. So there's hundreds of free videos that you guys can check out through my website that's linked to my YouTube channel. There's all kinds of different sessions as well too. I've talked to thousands of people, again, either online and locally. And basically there's private sessions that are available. There's Akashic records looking into other particular lives throughout Earth and beyond. There's also what's known as abundance attunements. And the abundance attunements are very, very fascinating. This is actually the first healing system that I've discovered that actually has miraculous effects to it. And I've always been very, very wary about utilizing that name of miraculous. But now being able to see the abundance attunements and effects, they're as close to a miraculous healing system than I've ever seen before in my life. So it's very, very fascinating altogether with that. But you can just go to realitywhisperer.com. Actually, Rob, can you just give me 1 minute? I just have to check the door here for a sec.
Absolutely. Go ahead. And while Brad's doing that, guys, I will fill you in and let you know this is the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. We are on Google Hangouts tonight because Blog Talk did not work out. So we're going to be taking questions when he comes back for the channeling. And what we're going to do is this. I'm going to, by either recollection or list, remember who came in first and give you guys the opportunity, first come, first serve. When I call out your name, I would like you just to unmute your own microphone, ask your question, and then mute it back. And if Adronis asks you a question or it's required you speak again, then you can unmute. And that way the audio to the audience out can be very clear and very good. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the event, too, that Brad was talking about earlier, that I was talking about earlier. TrebChanneling.com is presenting the channel panel, and this is the channel panel Awakening from Within. It's the second installment of what we hope to be many, many more to come, which is the very first all-channeler conference of this magnitude in the world. We're going to be doing it live in Los Angeles. For those of you who can make it to LA, who are interested, you can always buy a ticket at etwhisper.com. You go to the events tab, to the live events, and then you can also have the opportunity, if you are not in the LA area, to check out the live streaming part of it. And that you can do anywhere in the world as long as you have an internet connection. If you go to ET Whisper and go to Events tab and then Upcoming Live Events, You'll have all the information about how to sign up for live tickets or online tickets. You could buy tickets for day 1, day 2, or both days for both of those. And the lineup that we have is going to be amazing. The very first day, we have Wendy Kennedy. We also have Lee Harris, and we have Sean Swanson, myself, and on the second day we're going to have Shelley Young, we're going to have Nora Harold, Brad Johnson, and Daniel Scranton. So it's going to be an amazing, amazing lineup. If you're interested, you could definitely check that out there. I see that you're back, Brad. So whenever you are ready, you can go ahead and connect, and if you want to tell anyone anything about how you connect or anything, that's fine. If you want to jump right in, we could do that too.
Okay, great. Yeah, so sorry I was a little bit interrupted by the neighbor here. But again, you can go to realitywhisperer.com. There's a lot of great info there, and of course sessions and even online courses you guys can check out as well. If you want to learn how to access the Akashic Records, look more deeply into the law of attraction in ways that haven't been shared publicly, all of that's on the website as well too. But getting into Adronis right now, it just takes me a moment or so to connect. It's mostly just because I'm neutralizing myself and then bringing him through. He'll give a brief introduction, and we'll just have an open forum. So any of you who have a question, feel free to state your name, and then feel free to share your question, and then Adronis can provide some information for you. So I will go ahead and bring Adronis through, and we'll get started. We are here at this time, and we bid you greetings, and thank you very much for the opportunity of this interaction today. I am Adronis of Sirius, sending love, appreciation, and gratitude to all who are tuning in to this particular broadcast being brought forward through your internet collective consciousness. What we would like all of you to do at this time is simply allow yourselves to get relaxed, get comfortable, and tune in to the vibrations of Sirius, so that you may synchronize, harmonize, and align to all of the information that we have to share. Also understand that all of the information that we shall provide today is simply that of our perspective, our point of view. For all knowledge, all information, all creation itself resides within your very heart, being, and soul. So we say hello to the individual known as Rob. Hello.
Hello, Adronis. It is wonderful to talk to you again.
Yes, and we say hello to everybody else together here in this moment. Thank you very much, and how may we assist any of you today?
First thing I wanted to do is ask a question. It is in reference to our event that is coming up forward. Through the processing, when me and Kalina had come up with the concept of giving this specific event, we came up with a name, channel panel, Awakening from Within. So if it is possible, can you give us what it means to you to awaken from within?
The definition that you have described in congruence together with this particular insight of event simply represents the idea of those remembering themselves. Now basically what you are going through is a memory-formed tactfulness, which basically gives the indication that many who will therefore connect and interact and associate together through this particular form of event will hold certain forms of memory engrams that will therefore become brought forward, which will therefore become initiated into their own forms of reality, which means that you will help yourselves to remember more connections on celestial levels, on astral levels, on ethereal levels, on mental levels, on akashic levels, on causal levels, on soul levels, etc., that will embody themselves together through the uniqueness of transformation and scope and configuration based upon the aspects of the entities that will be channeled through the conduits themselves. So what you are overall experiencing here is the awakening from within that helps you to understand the recalling of who you are based upon your assignments here on Earth, based upon the ideograms representing the idea of other lives that are now fermenting themselves together within yourselves. You are also understanding more so about what lies ahead for you. So when you are awakening from within, all you are fundamentally doing is remembering more levels to who you are that will play themselves out accordingly as remembrance and realization visits you appropriately.
Beautiful, beautiful. That is so resonant and so on spot with the concepts and ideas that we were hoping to share there. Um, I wanted to give the opportunity also for people in the audience. The first person who came in was Alexandra Jojo Moon. If you would like to unmute yourself and ask Adronis a question. All right, Alexandra. And if you don't want to ask a question, we can come back to you. Oh, I see. All right, one moment then. I will try to unmute you for you. It won't let me unmute you either. um, keep trying, and we'll come right back to you next. The next person who is available is Savita, Sister Savita. If you'd like to ask Adronis a question, you can unmute yourself.
Hello. Hello.
There.
Can you hear
Yes,
me?
you're on.
Hi, Adronis.
Hello.
Um, do you have, if you can connect to the higher self, and if you have any message
Yeah,
for
we
me?
can. Any message for you? We
Yes.
would recommend that you become more, shall we say, connected with others within very large crowds. Now, these particular forms of crowds can certainly relate to the idea of, shall we say, online capacity, but more so representing the idea of physical capacity. We would suggest you be embarking more upon the idea of gatherings. Now, these gatherings can simply represent meditative gatherings, they can represent yoga-based gatherings, they can represent anything that you feel have a spiritual theme assigned to them. But the reason why we are suggesting this to you is because we feel that the energies that you gain when you are surrounded by others whom you have personally attracted to develop friendships, to develop associations together with, will help you to enrich yourself on a further level, because the beings that are actually in communication with you are thoroughly connected to many of these other particular forms of people that you can therefore align to. So we would ask if there is actually a current event that may have actually in that sense triggered a fascination with you recently, that you may involve yourself with that event, because you will discover very rich rewards out of that by having associations of others, conversations with others, interactions with others, but most primarily presence with others that will help you to enable a certain level of contact in your dream plane, in your meditative planes, in conscious planes, for you to actually work together with other energies that will help you to overall improve your health, improve your vitality, and improve your relationships overall with people who appreciate your presence. Make sense?
Yes, we're waiting for her to open up the mic. There we go.
I know, this is, I'm learning about that. Yes, yes, it does make sense.
Yep.
And you did touch some points. Those gatherings, I made beautiful relationship, and I'm exploring next step to the spirituality. And
Yep.
it's amazing. It's beautiful. It's just, it's so expanding, you know. I mean,
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
so much of love. I mean,
Indeed.
it's, yes. And
And you will
yes, my,
discover that this will become a lot more stronger through more of the gatherings that are ahead. But if there is a recent gathering that you would like to attend to, even if it isn't just a small group, you will be amazed about what comes forward through it.
Well, thank you, Adronis, and thank you, Sister Savita, for the beautiful question. We'll go to the next person in, which is Elga. Elga, if you're here, you can go ahead and unmute your microphone. It should be on the top of the page. If you take your mouse to the top, there'll be a picture of a microphone in red, and you click that, and it'll unmute your mic.
If you also feel that you would like to type your question, we would be happy to provide insight relating to that medium as well.
Thank you, Adronis, and that is a beautiful suggestion. All those who don't feel like getting on microphone, you can feel definitely type, or if it's easier to type, by all means, please. What we'll do now is we'll go to Claire Bell. If you're able to go ahead and unmute yourself, Claire Bell, that'd be great. Actually, Clarabelle's not here. Joey Rolls, if you can unmute your mic, that will be wonderful, or if you guys want to type it in. All right, Joey Rowles, if you can unmute your mic. If not, we can move to the next person. All right.
How about now?
There we go. Beautiful. Absolutely. Go ahead and ask your question to Jonas, please.
Hello, Jonas. This is Joey.
Hello, Joey.
I know there's a lot of people that are interested in learning about past lives and who they were in past lives and who they might be in the future lives. And I know
Yes.
this is very interesting, and I also am somewhat interested in that. However, part of me also is wondering or is thinking, even though that's exciting and interesting, I still need to live in the now present moment.
Yes.
And so I guess the question that I have about this is, in general, how does that serve someone in their expansion? And I guess maybe also then, if you could specifically maybe look into how it may or may not be advantageous for me in my expansion.
All that you are primarily doing when you are looking at other lifetimes are just reflections of different mirrors where you are the center looking back at that mirror reflection. So everything that represents a past life or everything that represents a future life, as this conduit has shared, are just layers of the onions. Now, basically, you are only able to attract the particular type of lifetime that is somehow commemorative to your current situation. This is why some of you in that sense are unable to access particular forms of lifetimes that you may feel at this particular point you have some type of association with. Look at it in this particular way. If you are not facing the mirror, you cannot see the reflection. And so the key here is that you are only directed into a certain form of quotient that represents the reflection necessary that can hold information pertaining to a past life or future life, etc., that is helping you to understand a facet of yourself. Now, understand, physically there is no way to prove that you actually have this form of life. And that's not so much the idea of the credence pertaining to this information. What is most important is that as you understand that a reflection that is speaking to you holds some merit based upon what you are going through that may be conflicting or that may be enhancing, it has served its purpose because it has triggered realization within you to evolve, either past the conflict or the realization to tap into that enhancement for it to become even greater. So therefore, all the past and future lives themselves, in that way, in retrospect, are showing you reflections of what you are already experiencing now in this life that symbolize a different form of experience, but hold an essence similar to what you're going through now. Therefore, that is the purpose of the mirror reflection to which the Akashic Records, through this medium, can therefore associate itself with through you.
All right, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
All right, thank you, Joey. And we're gonna try back with Alexandra.
Sorry.
1 second, we'll get to you coming right next. Alexandra was here first. She finally got a question typed to us.
Perfect.
All right. My question is, I have many interactions with galactic beings. They teach me much about them, but how is that going to enhance my life? I'm not understanding why they're contacting me.
It is not for you always to understand the clarity of the information that comes through at this moment, because understand, this is what we refer to as, shall we say, planting a seed information. Now, when you plant a seed into the ground, it does not mean it will instantly sprout into a beautiful vegetable or into a beautiful tree. It takes time. However, the information that is being shared with you right now are seeds being planted within the ground for you to continue to nurture those particular seeds so that it will have a generated effect for you to vibrate into the reality alignment necessary for this information to therefore make sense. So basically what you are going through right now does not always have to relate to your current moment as you understand time. It is basically, in that sense, seeds for the future in one way of putting it in that particular way. Now, it's only telling you this because they are attempting to gravitate you into another particular type of magnetic that helps you understand more so about how you can correlate together with the information that they are sharing to helping you evolve further. So understand when you receive these messages from others all together, yes, it may seem confusing at first, but that is all part of them planting a seed within your mind, and as you continue to go through your life and reciprocate that type of energy, you vibrate into a magnetic reality where that therefore gives clarity and saying, oh, now I understand what they were saying. It was meant for this particular time. For when I gravitated into this alignment, I couldn't see it before because I was not the magnetism of understanding what that message meant at that time. So now I've gravitated myself into this alignment, and now it makes perfect sense. So that, in the way, is them planting seeds in your mind to be shared and sprouted at a later time.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Jonas, and very grateful for that. We have, before we get back to you, Brooke, we're going to take Shin, because Shin was here right before you got here. Shin, are you able to unmute your microphone?
Yes, thank you. Hi, Adronis. Nice
Hello,
to meet
Shin,
you.
yes?
Recently, I've started speaking light languages, light languages, and
Yes.
during my meditation time, I started to, I don't know who this is, but started to pick up messages for myself. Maybe it's my higher self, but I'm not sure. Anyway, so my question is, oh, okay. Now, through my meditation message, I'm told like my ability is slowly but starting to unfold and do not worry and stuff. But I could be more. I can make myself confused. So, do you have any message or advice for myself?
You are thinking too much.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically the message that's coming through. Relax your mind. The whole idea is that many of you have analytical tendencies to yourselves to feel that as soon as I receive a message, what does it mean? Should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? Etc., etc., etc. And the thoughts piggyback off themselves. Move past the transcendence of thoughts and come more into the heart of feeling. So when it is telling you, relax yourself, come into the point where you are now just starting to gravitate into a state of tranquility, let the focus be on that area, because here's the thing. You will never gain clarity if you think too much. It's not possible. You're basically, in that sense, a hamster running a wheel eternally, and it will not stop. As long as you continue to rely upon thought, you will get nowhere. Now, thought itself, in that way of over-effortness, overthinking, over-analyzing in that way, is a trap in a particular way, because you're only monumentally, shall we say, stagnating yourself upon that wheel. So the more that you can let the thought go and just focus upon the feeling of the moment where your message is telling you, relax, unfold yourself, let yourself be tranquil. Maybe I should relax, unfold myself, and let myself be tranquil. And now the sensation of that particular feeling that has been suggested to you by your guidance is now coming together in your reality, and now you're feeling more clarity. The key to your expansion is a clear mind. The key to your expansion is imperturbability, which means that you are basically phasing out emotions through your life. Now, emotions themselves and feelings are different. Emotions are what you refer to as overstacked amounts of feeling that have not been embraced, that have not been shared, that have not had any particular form of relevancy through your awareness. This is what causes emotions. Emotions, in that sense, is not a single feeling, but an incredible stacked amount of feeling that has basically reached such an overage that it now needs to explode. That basically represents both positive and negative emotions. So when you are basically allowing yourself to have feeling ripely come through you, feeling is the genuine sensation. It is that feeling right away that you are encountering, and you are allowing yourself to express, and you're now allowing that energy to pass through you like a river, because there is no turbulence based upon suppressing those feelings. And that's how emotions gather. You suppress feelings again and again and again and again and again and again and again until it is like a stack of pancakes that is basically as high as your Empire State Building. So now you are just allowing yourself to emphasize the pureness of the feeling that comes through. And as that happens, a certain form of thought associated together with that feeling will come through as well. Let it pass through you like a river, like a river. Relativity, relativity, relativity. Let that energy move through you. So when you give the idea of your guidance to come through and say, relax yourself, unwind, unfold, become tranquil, what is stopping you from going to that area? The addiction to thinking. So work on the idea where thinking can now take a break, where you've already acknowledged that you're thinking too much, and now you're giving that thought a break. Now I'm just going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to go ahead and relax and unfold and unwind and become tranquil. And look how much I have prospered just by listening to that guidance. I allow myself to go into feeling rather than thought. That is the understanding.
Beautifully put, Adronis. Thank you so much for that wonderful insight. That's probably one of the things that most people need to truly hear first when they're receiving and pulling in. So thank you for sharing that. Next we have Brooke. It's your turn up if you'd like to unmute yourself and ask Adronis a question. All right, Brooke, if you're there, go ahead and unmute by reaching the top of the page with your mouse. There should be a microphone button. You just click on that and unmute. All right, we will try back to you, Brooke, in a minute. Let's go to Deborah, which is the next person in the room. Beautiful, wonderful Deborah. Are you, if you're able to unmute yourself, Deborah, by all means, please do. All right. All right, Deborah, if you're there, the unmute button's on the top. If not, anyone, please feel free to go ahead and type their questions in. We're definitely taking questions. All right, so while we're waiting for that, I'll ask one question. Yeah, for some reason, it's no one seeming to unmute, so please feel free to go ahead and type your questions in. While we're waiting for people to come through and to untype, the one question that I've come into I've noticed that as a cycle that people are looking at conspiracies, they'll step away, and for some reason they get drawn back in. What is the reflection that's being made that brings them back into those conspiracies when they first were unattracted to it because of the negative thoughts that were associated with it?
All right, well, again, understand that part of your question was somewhat cut off. Would you be able to repeat the beginning part of this question?
Yes, absolutely, and sorry about that. Basically, what a lot of people that I've noticed who've come for either channeled information or just on Facebook, they'll step away from the conspiracy things for a while because it doesn't attract them, and all of a sudden I notice a cycle of people starting to go back into conspiracies who've stepped away from it for several months or even up to a year. What is in that reflection that's bringing them back into those types of conspiracies or negative things that are happening on the earth now in this specific time?
In relation to the idea of those in that sense who are very much into conspiracy theories, who feel that they have gravitated away from it for some time and then have come back into it, is still the result of associative programming based on fear. Now, the whole idea is that many of these particular conspiracy theories, in that way, some of them in that sense, do hold truth to them. But basically what is happening is they move into such an extreme where it feels like it is doom and gloom, that there really is no hope, or that you must have fear in order for there to be resolve. No. The whole idea here is that fear is such an addiction. It is an alluring concept for many. And as long as you continue to go into that particular fear program, that gravitation, no matter how subtle or how in that sense impactful it may be, will gravitate around to you, because there still is a program there where you feel that there is a point of a separation, a point where you feel that the energies that are coming through relating to this particular event is so fearful, and that there's so much going on upon the world. What can I do? It's basically that feeling of hopelessness, the feeling that you are now attracting something within your life that governs that alignment pertaining to fear of conspiracy to now come back together within you. Now, there are no problems but the problems that you yourself create. That's the whole idea. When you are looking at worldwide events, they do not come assigned with problem or with conflict. You therefore give the conflict to that event, because you feel that through the meanings that are currently assigned to the scope of your being, that something is within that event that needs to be feared. And the only reason why that's feared is because you have certain levels of societal-based programming that represent the idea of instilling that event with fear. So again, everything pertaining to what is happening upon your planet is simply event itself. The meaning behind it will always be subjective to the viewer. So it is not fearful because one person says it's fearful and you buy into it. No, it's the idea that that person that says it's fearful is the very person that you have attracted because you have given it relevance pertaining to its feeling of fear that is associated together with this event that now brings itself back into you. So it is the feeling of despair, the feeling of hopelessness, the feeling of separation, the feeling that it is beyond your control, that you have no control in this particular way, and that is to cause panic. And so this is basically why it gravitates itself around. So many people in that sense, in a very simplistic way, are just forgetting that they are in charge. That this reality, everything within it, can be as blissful or as scary as you want it to be. You have the choice to do that. Does not matter what your government says, does not matter what your parents say, does not matter what your friend says or your partner, etc. You have the ability to make this the most divine, loving planet in your world as possible, or the most fearful. You have to decide exactly what you feel is relevant.
Thank you very much, Adronis, for that wonderful. I think that'll help a lot of people. Next, we have Brooke, who's been waiting patiently. Go ahead,
We will
Brooke.
take one last question before we conclude this evening.
Okay, thank you. All right, Brooke, are you able to unmute yourself? Oh.
Hello?
All
Yes, we
right.
heard somebody.
Yeah, go ahead, Philip. If you're unmuted, go ahead.
I was not aware that I was actually in queue. So, well,
We
if I
say
had a
hello to
question.
you, Philip. How are you?
Hello, girls. How art thou?
Thou is
Uh,
fine. How is thee?
the art fine, if I responded correctly.
All right.
um,
Thank you for the play.
sounds like an old Nintendo game now. So I had just made a discovery not too long ago about a name that was uh, in 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 nature the name of Clarita. And I was ever so curious if there was something that I could, or she's additionally wanting to communicate to me that I'm too headstrong to actually realize in the moment.
All right. Now you were referring to an individual known as Clarita?
I believe she was my spirit guide along those lines, if I do remember correctly.
All right. And she is attempting to pose a message to you.
I I strongly believe so, but I think that like you said earlier about being too analytical. I believe I'm kind of I feel like it's right there within grasp, and yet I am the one keeping us not necessarily apart, but just for the sake of saying it, apart.
All right. And so you are uncertain if you have felt a message from her or not.
Yes, like I'm still trying to not figure it out, but I like to let things happen in the way they need to. But I feel like if I'm questioning it, then there's something that had to have happened that I'll have that aha moment that
Well,
will realize.
basically what you have just described is a confirmation of a message.
Yeah.
So the answer would be yes.
Yes.
Does that help you?
I guess, yeah, sure. I mean, yes, it does. Sorry.
All right. So
It's
again,
really
it's all
hard.
about being able to understand the clarity. When that has such an effect to you in regards to a state of feeling, that particular message holds, again, merit. So when you feel that in that sense, if it's just something that you're not too sure of, maybe you're feeling that your thoughts are piggybacking off that, then that can in that sense at times be distortion. But when you know that it's something in that sense that actually hits you in the soul, as it were, that gives you the indication that in that sense a genuine message may come about, even though it may have in that sense been dragged along the ground a bit through the idea of analytical nature. But nonetheless, the essence of that feeling that hits you in the soul in that way is still valid.
Excellent.
All right.
Thank you for that.
We thank you very much for your question. We thank each and every one of you once again for the opportunity of this interaction today. I am Adronis of Sirius, sending love, appreciation, and gratitude. Thank you again. Farewell for this timing, and we now return to the conduit. We will speak to you again, as now is forever, and all is one. Goodbye.
Hello,
Right.
welcome back, brother.
I'm back.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very, very much, brother, for bringing forward Dronis, for talking with us and helping us get through some ideas that a lot of people are dealing with and trying to make sense of their new connections. I think that's kind of the theme, is people are at the level where they're bringing it in by the masses, thousands, and to be able to help them get over that initial hump of understanding and letting in, it's very essential, and you've done that beautifully, brother. Dronis has done that beautifully, so thank you so much for being a part of this. Always love you on the show, and as you know, you're always welcome back.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me tonight. And thank you, everybody else, for great questions. And again, feel free to check out my website, realitywhisperer.com. I look forward to speaking to you all again soon. Namaste.
Thank you again, brother. And for all of you who are listening, next week, which will be the 2nd of September, is the first of the month ET Whisper channeling special, a lot like today, but there won't be an interview with myself beforehand. We'll just jump straight into channeling. We go for an hour, first come, first serve. Keep your eyes peeled on the Enlightenment Evolution page, or the Enlightenment Evolution Hour page on Facebook, which is facebook.com/enlightenment.evolution.hour. I will have a post up an hour before the show, and in the 15 minutes heading up, we'll know if we're going to be able to get on air or not, and if we cannot, then we will be back here at Google Hangouts. So we will be taking Q&As. Kalina Angel from the Earth Experience with Kalina Angel, our Friday night show on the Enlightenment Evolution Network, will be a moderator, co-host, and extraordinarily beautiful, gorgeous sunshine. Should join us there next week on the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. For those of you who enjoyed what you see, realitywhisper.com, Brad Johnson, amazing friend, beautiful human, wonderful channeler. He will also be a part of the Channel Panel event. So keep your eyes peeled. Type in Channel Panel Awakening from Within. You will find the information. Go to etwhisper.com or trebchanneling.com. Go to the events tab. Go to upcoming online events. There are unlimited online event tickets. So if you want to watch and you live in Bulgaria, as long as you're awake during that time, you have the internet at your house or wherever you're going to be, you can watch it. If you're in LA, I suggest highly to come there because there's only 300 seats available, and quite a few of those are gone already, so we have a limited seat in day 1 and day 2 there. But online, unlimited. If 1 billion people want to come, they can come, and we will see you guys there. That is September 19th and 20th, the Channel Panel, Awakening from Within. Thank all of you guys for your participation today. Lovely questions, lovely interactions. Kalina is sending her love from behind me. I feel her waving at you energetically.
Love you, brother.
Oh, that was for you, Brad, and for all of you guys. Me and Kalina both love you very, very much. And we will be back next Wednesday on the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. Thank you, guys. Love you guys. See you next week. Bye.